Diana?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Tanya, I would like to ask you a question about the commission. Is it legal if once in a while we get the buyer commission?
Yeah, I mean, you are, so if you have a buyer representation agreement, you're looking for a business for a buyer, the buyer rep agreement clearly states on it that the buyer is agreeing to pay your fee. It also states on it that anything you are able to get from the seller side will offset the buyer's obligation. So that being said, if you have a buyer rep agreement where the buyer is agreeing to pay you a 10% fee, and you find them a business that is listed by somebody else, and that broker is willing to give you 4%, that 4% offsets the 10, and now the buyer only owes you 6. Okay?
Oh, we cannot
Or
get
contrary,
additional.
pardon me?
Can we get additional the seller buyer and the buyer commission? Both? Can we get both? No.
Well, not using the paperwork that we have. Because again, the buyer rep agreement says that anything you get from the seller side will offset the buyer's obligation. And we don't want it to be perceived as double dipping. So, ultimately, if you're selling a business, let's say you have a buyer rep agreement, they're agreeing to pay you a fee. You go out, you find a seller, the buyer wants to, and the seller agrees to pay you a fee. And the buyer now you're a dual agent. So you represent both the seller and the buyer. But yeah, whatever you get from the seller, whatever the seller agreed to pay, it might offset the entire buyer's obligation, or it might only offset a portion of it. But it is going to offset it if you're using the buyer rep agreement that we have.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.